Right, very good evening to all of you. So, welcome to another video. Now, in this video, we will be discussing a few questions from section C organic chemistry. Like, I'll try to cover in two parts because otherwise, one video would be very long, right? So, let's look at the four markers. Two markers I've already covered, and all the spectroscopy questions, the organic spectroscopy questions from this particular examination, I've already covered in my previous videos, right? So, for that, you'll find the link somewhere over here on the top right corner. Now, when we talk about Shapiro reaction, okay, this example is basically a very common name reaction. This is called Shapiro reaction. And what happens over here is basically you can go and look into the mechanism of Shapiro reaction. Over here, I'll explain it in a very concise manner, right? So we have this phenyl NH tosyl, right? And we are adding 2.2 equivalents of N-butyl lithium. So what the N-butyl lithium is going to do is it's going to abstract proton. First, it is going to abstract from over here, right? It will form N minus, right? So this NH proton will be abstracted and it will form N minus over here, right? And the other proton that will be abstracted will be over here, right? So what is going to happen? This is going to migrate over here, and once this migrates over here, this bond migrates over here, right? And this tosyl group, which is a good leaving group, leaves. So finally, what do we have? We have phenyl, then we have double like single bond N, double bond N minus, right? And then along with that we have double bond over here and phenyl group, right? Now next what happens is is basically this N minus now migrates back over here, right? And since this will become a very good leaving group, nitrogen gas, this is going to leave, and we are going to get a vinyl carbanion over here, right? We are going to get a vinylic anion over here. So what we are going to get? Phenyl CH, phenyl, and a negative charge over here, right? Basically a anion, carbanion, a vinyl and a carbanion we are going to get over here. So this is what happens in Shapiro reaction. So whatever now the electrophile will be given to us, we'll have to arrange it accordingly. So over here the electrophile that is given to us is BrCH2CH2Br, right? So what is going to happen? Let me just draw the electrophile over here for you. So we have BrCH2CH2Br, right? So what's going to happen? This carbanion is going to attack this bromine over here, and this bond is going to migrate. This is basically acting as electrophile, right? This bond is going to migrate and this Br is also going to leave. So finally what product we'll get? Basically we'll get like a byproduct will be ethene, and along with that we'll get this phenyl, um, phenyl CH2, and then over here we'll have Br attached, right? So that is why over here our correct option is option number 2, right? So it was an easy question. You just had to identify the electrophile, and this was a name reaction, quite easy, Shapiro reaction, right? So let's move to the next question. Now, the next question is also quite easy. It is a name reaction and a very famous reagent, right? Metachloro peroxybenzoic acid, MCPBA. So all of us know that either it will give Baeyer-Villiger oxidation or it can also lead to epoxidation. So over here you can see the products are epoxid, like it will lead to epoxidation over here, and this particular reagent over here is basically, it's also a name reaction, that is Sharpless epoxidation, right? So in MCPBA, it is a very common reagent that is asked in the examination, and you know that if there is a allylic alcohol present, then that will determine the stereochemistry of the epoxidation, right? But over here, this is not a chiral center, right? The alcohol over here is not a chiral, like it is not a chiral center, so this cannot determine the stereochemistry. So what else can determine the stereochemistry? This group over here, right? Now see, this group over here, which is below the plane, it cannot form hydrogen bond. So basically why MCPBA leads to epoxidation from the allylic OH side is because the OH group basically leads to epoxidation, like leads to hydrogenation with the MCPBA, right? So that is why if let's say we have such a reagent, let's say I'm just giving you one example, that if you have OH group over here above the plane and I add MCPBA, then the epoxidation over here will happen above the plane, because this OH is going to basically like direct the MCPBA, and the MCPBA will attack from above the plane, and that happens because of hydrogen bonding, right? But over here, like I said, this is not a chiral center, and now it simple oxygen, which is like you can say like which is substituted oxygen, right? Substituted oxygen cannot interact with the MCPBA. So in fact over here the opposite stereochemistry will be there, because this will act as a sterically hindered group. MCPBA is also you can say sterically hindered reagent or a very bulky reagent, and this group that therefore is below the plane, so that is why MCPBA will attack from opposite side, right? This oxygen is not capable, like basically substituted oxygen will not be able to form the hydrogen bond with the MCPBA, right? So it should be a free OH group, okay, a free OH group or a free NH2 group that is capable of forming the hydrogen bond. Only then in that case the epoxidation will happen from the same side where the alcohol is present, right? Or any other directing group is present. But over here this does not act as a directing group. In fact, it will act as a sterically bulky group, and that is why the epoxidation will happen from above the plane. So in this case we'll get above the plane, the epoxidation will happen above the plane. Now what about this case? So this is basically simple. I'll write this as R group over here. You just have to do simple sharpless epoxidation. I have made a lot of videos on this. You just have to identify first what kind of phase is it. Is it re phase or C phase? So this will, like, we generally take the re or C phase from this carbon to which the OH group is nearer, right? So we'll take this carbon and we'll identify whether it is a re phase or the C phase. So this is carbon number 1. So this is priority number 1 because it is attached to OH. This carbon over here will be priority number 2, okay, and then this hydrogen over here will have a hydrogen. This will be priority number 3, right? So what is this phase? This is going opposite, right? So this is C phase. If it was going clockwise, then it would have been re phase. So that means above the plane. That means from where you are viewing, that means if you're watching it in a screen, so where you are watching it from, that is the C phase, right? So where you are sitting is the C phase. That means above the plane is the C phase. And we know that if we have minus diethyl propyl tartrate, so minus attacks from C phase, okay, minus attacks from C phase and plus attacks from re phase. So since minus is given to us and we are actually above the plane is the C phase and minus is given, so it is going to attack from the C phase which is above the plane. So that means in both the cases the epoxidation is going to happen from above the plane, and that is why over here the correct answer is option number 4. All right. Let's move to the next question. This is also a name reaction. This is your Favorsky rearrangement. Okay. Always remember, whenever you have alpha haloketones and you have a base, obviously a Favorsky rearrangement will take place. Okay. So what is going to happen over here? It's very simple. Let us just simply draw the reagent first of all. Okay. We'll see what happens later. So first of all, we have a base. So what the base is going to do, it is going to abstract one of the protons, either this proton or this proton, does not matter because it is symmetrical in nature, right? So the base is going to basically this your sodium ethoxide is going to act as a base and is going to abstract any one of the protons. See, there's a proton present over here, so it is going to abstract this proton and a carbon ion will be generated. This carbon ion will now attack this carbon over here and bromine will be cleaved, okay, or bromine will leave. So finally what do we get? We basically get this, okay, and double bond O. And now what happens, this OMe minus, that is the base over here, this now acts as a nucleophile and this attacks this carbonyl carbon, okay, it will attack the carbonyl carbon. Once the attack takes place, what is going to happen, it will form O minus and this O minus will migrate back, okay. Now once this O minus migrates back, like once it forms O minus and it migrates back, now two things can happen, right? Either this bond can break over here or this bond can break, okay, any of the two bonds can break. Now see, if I break this bond over here, then what is going to happen is, if I break this bond, basically a carbon ion is going to be generated over here, right? And if I break this bond over here, then a carbon ion is going to be generated over here, right? So which of the two bonds will be broken? Basically this bond will be broken. I'll tell you the reason why. Because once the carbon ion is formed over here, this can migrate over here and this bromine can be cleaved off, okay. So that is what is going to happen. Let me just show the steps over here. Now next thing is, what is going to happen is, we are going to get, basically ring opening will take place, this bond will break over here, right? So we'll get a 5-membered ring, right? We get a 5-membered ring, and since this bond is broken over here, we have a bromine over here, and now this bond is intact, so we'll have CO2 Me group, right? C double bond O, OMe attached over here, and since this bond has broken down, so we'll have a negative charge at this end, okay. Now what is going to happen, simply this minus charge will be migrate over here, okay. This minus charge carbon ion will migrate over here and bromine is going to leave. So finally what do we get as the product? We get this 5-membered ring, okay, and we have a double bond over here and CO2 Me. Now if you look at the options over here, it was given that there are 6 carbons in between, right? There were 6 carbons in between. Now if you look at the options, there is no 5-membered ring, okay. So what have they done is, just they have used a small trick in the equation, that over here, instead of making it 6 carbons, okay, they have, like, this was 6 carbons, right? There were 6 carbons in between. What they have done is, see over here, look at this option. What have they have done? They have added one extra carbon and labeled 5 over here and made it a 6 membered ring. Okay, so a 5 membered ring is formed, but since like there were 6 carbons in between in the reactant, so what they have done, they have taken one carbon extra, made it a 6 membered ring and labeled it over here 5, right? So that is why in this particular case, this is the correct answer, option number 4. Okay, so all of them are named reactions. This is also a very popular name reaction, that is the Friedlander synthesis. Okay, Friedlander synthesis of quinolines. Okay, so it leads to the formation of quinolines, and over here there are two conditions. Okay, this is basically a basic condition, and which is also at you can say at 0 degrees Celsius. So this will lead to the formation of kinetic product, and over here this is acidic conditions, and we have reflux conditions. So the thermodynamic product will be formed over here. Basically, it leads to the formation of quinolines, but obviously there will be some difference in both the conditions. We'll have a discussion on that, right? But you can follow this name reaction. This is Friedlander synthesis and of quinolines, right? So we have 2 amino benzaldehyde and we have a ketone over here. So what is going to happen? Let's see in acidic conditions and in basic conditions. So in acidic conditions, let's see in basic conditions first what is going to happen, right? Let's take the basic conditions over here. So in basic conditions, what is going to happen? You can see over here that we have a NH2 and a, like, let me just draw it over here, CO pH NH2, right? So first step will be basically formation of imine. That is a very common step. Okay, I'm not going to show the mechanism over here. Whenever you have a ketone and NH2 in basic conditions, the first step will be the formation of imine, right? So we'll have a imine will be formed over here, right? Or you can just write it like methyl CH3, and you can write over here, I'll write CH2 and H like this, and I'll write ethyl group over here, right? Now what is the next step? So since it is a basic condition, it is like I said, it is a kinetic product. Now we are adding base also, KOH is present. So what the base is going to do now, that since the kinetic product will be formed, the base is going to abstract the proton from the less substituted end, right? So the base is going to abstract the proton from here, and what is going to form is basically this bond will break and we'll get a carbanion over here. Now this carbanion, what it is going to do, it is basically going to attack this COPH. Okay, it is going to attack over here. So what is going to be formed? Basically you can label the number of carbons, 1, 2, number of atoms, basically 3, 4, 5 and 6. So again we'll get a 6 membered ring over here, right? So we'll get a 6 membered ring, you can see like this. Okay, we'll have an N, let me just draw it, N, and we have a double bond over here. On this side we have a ethyl group attached, and over here we'll have a OH attached, right? And right, we'll have a OH attached. Okay, and actually over here this NH hydrogen will not be there. Okay, you can just remove this hydrogen, and like the base will abstract the hydrogen and you'll just get a double bond over here, and we have a OH over here, and we have 2 hydrogens over here. Then the next step is obviously condensation, minus H2O. Okay, elimination will take place, this will migrate over here, this will migrate like this, and finally what you will get is your quinoline, right? A quinoline will be there, but over here the important part you have to see is that the ethyl group is substituted at this end, right? So basically A is the product, so you can see that in this case this will be A, right? This is the product, either this, and now you have to see what happens for B, right? Now you have to see what happens for B. So in case of B, what is going to happen? Let's look at the conditions. So for B, what is going to happen is COPH. So acidic conditions are there. So in acidic conditions, what happens? The imine formation is not happening. Basically, first the enolate will be generated, right? So we have ET double bond O methyl over here. So this OH will be protonated in acidic conditions, and similarly over here this will also be protonated, right? So first will be the formation of enolate, and since it is a thermodynamic product, so the enolate will be formed from the ethyl side, right? So we have CH3, CH, you can say double bond O minus, enolate basically will be generated, and we'll have Me, right? So this enolate is going to be generated over here. Now what is going to happen? This O minus will migrate back, and now this CH is going to attack this carbon center, right? So what is going to happen? This CH over here now is going to attack this carbon. I'm not going to show it because it will become a little difficult over here. So you can just I'll just show it to you over here. So we have OH, okay, and phenyl group will be attached. And next thing, what do we have? We have basically NH2 over here, and this will be double bond O, okay. Just one second, just let me label the carbon. So this is, let's say this is carbon number 1. So to this carbon we have a methyl group attached, right? And then we have one more carbon, and to this carbon we have a double bond O group and a Me group attached, right? So now what is going to happen, you can see the condition. Now the imine formation will take place. We have NH2, we have the carbonyl group. So now you can show the formation of imine over here, right? Nitrogen double bond like this. Imine formation you can show. We have a methyl group over here, we have a methyl group over here, we have a hydrogen, and we have a OH and pH. So now what is going to happen, same, the condensation is going to happen, minus H2O, and now what you are going to get, you can see very different product. Even though you are getting a quinoline, but you can see that the product is very different. So we'll have phenyl over here and a methyl at this position and a methyl at this position. So again we got a quinoline, but we got a different kind of quinoline. So the correct answer would be, you can see over here, methyl, phenyl, and over here, like we discussed, ethyl and phenyl. I missed out drawing the phenyl over here. You can draw the phenyl, right? So that is why in this case the correct answer is option number 4, right? It was a good question, to be very honest. Okay, so this is something easy, you can say, because even if this kind of reagent might be new to you, so you have to predict what is A and what is B. So it's very simple. See, you know that whenever you add Br2, it acts like a electrophilic bromine, right? It is a source of electrophilic bromine. So what is going to happen over here, you know, the OH is basically electron donating group, so it will increase the electron density at the ortho and para positions. And now since the ortho position is already occupied by the bromines, so the para position is activated. And since I told you Br2 is a electrophilic source, okay, it is a source of electrophilic bromine. So what is basically going to happen is that due to the electron donating ability of the OH group, okay, your bromine will be attached at the para position. Now you might be wondering that why not at the ortho position, okay, why not at the ortho position? Sorry, one second, this will be Br. So you might be wondering, no, why not at the ortho position? Because ortho position, like, because of the steric hindrance, this product in the para position will be very stable, right? So this is what is going to be formed over here. Now you can imagine over here, this itself is also a very good source of electrophilic bromine, because if we have any kind of nucleophile, okay, if we have any kind of nucleophile and the nucleophile attacks this bromine, for example, this bond migrates back, this bond migrates back, and we get basically we get the aromaticity back. Over here the aromaticity is lost. So this also acts as a very good source of bromine actually, because this nucleophile can attack the bromine and you can get the aromatic compound back, right? So basically it's a very good source of electrophilic bromine. Now what do we have as a reagent over here? We have, like, basically this group, all right. And like I said, we have to identify which will be the most nucleophilic center in this case now, because like I said, this is a very good source of bromine. So bromine is going to attach on this aromatic ring, but we have to see which is the most nucleophilic position. Now technically speaking, this is the most nucleophilic position, because see, CF3 over here is electron withdrawing group, so it will withdraw a lot of electron density from the ortho positions, and plus this position is also sterically hindered, so there's no chance of the reaction happening over here. So there's a competition between this side and this side, right? And I think in the options also, that is what is given to us. You can see these are the options based on our product A, and over here bromine is attached at ortho to the CF3, and over here it is attached ortho to the NME2. Now technically this is the most nucleophilic position over here, because it is away from the CF3, right? CF3 will basically exert a very strong minus I effect, so it will basically decrease the electron density at the ortho position and will make it less nucleophilic. And NME2 is both ortho and para directing group. So technically speaking, over here the CF3's inductive effect will not be that strong, but because this is NME2 and because of the steric hindrance in this case, okay, there will be a lot of bulkiness around this NME2. That is why this position will be more you can say open to the reaction as compared to NME2, right? This position over here will be more open to the bromination, right? So that is why in this particular case the bromination happens from this case, right? Like I said, the nucleophilicity is greater over here, but because of the steric hindrance. If it was NH2 over here, then definitely you can say that the that the bromination would have happened at this particular case, right? So but in this case, because this is electrophilic bromine source and we have to identify the most nucleophilic site, so this is the most nucleophilic site, but due to the steric hindrance, the bromine is going to get attached at this position, right? So there was a competition between these two positions, and over here the bromine will get attached. All right. Let's look at this next question. So this is a very common question because it has been basically being asked time and again. This is basically a source of formation of non-classical carbocation. All right. You can read out the question by yourself. All right. But what you need to identify is that in this case, what will be the products? Whether we'll get two products or we'll selectively get one product, right? So what are the two compounds given to us? So basically, in one case we have this OTS group present over here, right? There are some hints given in the question also with which you can solve it, but I'm just going to tell you the mechanism over here. In one case we have a CF3 group over here, right? And in the other case, what do we have? In the other case we have a OMe group. Okay, so this is basically a source of non-classical carbocation, or you can say this is a basically NGP pathway. It will follow the NGP pathway, where basically first your OTS, basically this group over here leaves. Okay, so once this bond is cleaved, we get a carbocation. Okay, we get a carbocation over here. So sorry for my bad drawing. Okay, I am not a very good at these things. And in this case, what we'll get, in this case also we'll get a similar thing, right? We'll have like CF3 group attached, right? You can draw it. I'm very sorry for this bad writing, right? And we have a double bond over here. So what is going to happen in this case is, see, in this particular case, this positive charge will be destabilized by this CF3 group, right? So what is going to happen? This will form a non-classical carbocation, right? Where this double bond over here participates and stabilizes this positive charge, right? This double bond that is present over here, this double bond, once you can, I can show you over here, once the carbocation is formed over here, this basically forms a pentavalent carbon, right? So that is why it is called a non-classical carbocation, right? And it gets stabilizes due to the NGP effect. Now, because it is being, so this side is basically being blocked. So when we add a nucleophile, so in this case, this nucleophile is going to be this, the conjugate base of this peroxy acid. This is sorry, not peroxy acid. This is your trifluoroacetic acid. So this, the conjugate base over here, the acetate, is going to act as a nucleophile, and that is why the nucleophile over here, since this side is already blocked due to the NGP effect, so it will attack from this side only. So we'll get only product A in this case, right? In this case, we'll only get product A. Okay, in the first case. Okay, so in this case, in the first case, we'll get only A. Now what happens in the second case? So what different thing can happen? So over here, there's competition between, you can say, the electron donating capability of this OMe group. So this OMe group can show like it can stabilize the ortho and para positions, right? So for example, this is something like this. If I draw it over here, if I draw a simplistic mechanism, so OMe, and we have, this is like something like this, right? A positive charge over here, and then we have two methyls like this. This is nothing but this kind of structure. So if I donate the electrons over here, this bond migrates over here and this bond migrates over here. So ultimately, what do we get? We basically get stabilization over here, okay, due to the electron donating effect of the OMe group, right? So we get a stabilization over here at this carbon also, right? So there's competition between the stabilizing effect due to the OMe group and the stabilizing effect due to the NGP. But over here, this group over here dominates, okay? And that is what the hint is given over here, that the chemical shift value is around 220 ppm. So for this carbon, the chemical shift value will be around 220 ppm. So that is the hint given in the question. And now what is going to happen, since this this effect is going to dominate, so we'll get a basically a planar molecule. So what we are going to get over here is a planar molecule, okay, like this. Okay, it will be like not, it will not be aromatic, like double bond over here, and then we'll have a planar molecule, right? So basically what I want to emphasize on, this carbon over here will be planar. So now the conjugate base or the nucleophile can attack from both the ends. Either it can attack from this end or it can attack from this end, right? Because the NGP effect is not basically being utilized in this particular substrate, right? So that is why in this case we'll get both the products, C also and D also. So in the first case we'll get only A, and the second case we'll get both C and D. So that is why in this particular case the correct answer becomes option number 2. All right. Let's move to the next question. It's a very simple question. So what do we have? Basically we have O80 group and NBS is given to us. Since none of the conditions are given which will show free radical mechanism, so NBS generally acts as an electrophilic source. It can act as a free like bromine source also, bromine radical source also, but for that the conditions should be there. Like there should be like photochemical light should be given. There should be some conditions, or there should be a radical initiator given with the NBS, so that we can say that it will follow the radical mechanism, right? So over here nothing like that is given to us. So like you can assume it to be a electrophilic source of bromine, NBS, N-bromosuccinamide, right? So what that is going to do is, whenever we have a double bond and we have a electrophilic source of bromine, your bromonium ion is formed. Okay, so in this case what is going to happen? The bromonium ion formation will take place, right? So we'll have bromonium ion formation taking place over here, right? Now this is the this over here, the allylic alcohol is basically this is our vinyl ether, and this is the allylic alcohol. So the bromonium ion is formed on the vinyl ether, right? Because this is electron rich also. So compared to this, if you compare this and this, then basically your this double bond will be more reactive. So bromonium ion formation takes place over here. Now the next thing is, this is the nucleophile, right? This over here, the allylic alcohol is our nucleophile. So it has two positions to attack, right? It has two positions to attack, and that is what the first conditions gives us. Like if the attack takes place at this center over here, then we get product A, which is given in option 1 and 2, and if the attack takes place at the terminal position, then we get products either option 3 or option 4. So first we need to identify what will the regioselectivity over here, whether it will attack this center over here or whether it will attack this carbon over here. So in this particular case, it attacks the nucleophile attacks this carbon, the more hindered carbon, because of something called as loose SN2 transition state. Okay, this in itself is a very long discussion. What is the loose SN2 transition state? But you can refer to Claydon. In Claydon it is mentioned in a very detailed manner what is the loose SN2 transition state and what happens in such ring openings. Okay, so over here you can go by that mechanism, and it will attack basically the more hindered site. So once it attacks the more hindered site, what kind of product we'll get? Basically, if we draw it like this, this is CH2, then we have this is oxygen. This oxygen attached this carbon. Okay, it has attacked this carbon, so we have a O80 group attached to this carbon, and we have, so basically this bond will break. Okay, so then we'll have a CH2 and then we'll have a Br, right? So this is what is generated in the first two options. So next is tributyl tin hydride, AIBN. So this is a radical initiator, AIBN. So this is going to follow the radical mechanism. So now the radical is going to be generated. So what is going to happen basically, right? CH2, oxygen, okay, and then we would have CH2OET, and a radical will be generated over here, right? So now we have either, so if you label the carbons, or you can see number of atoms 1 2 3 4 5. So if the attack takes place over here, okay, at this carbon, let me show it to you in blue. If attack takes place over here, we get a 5-membered ring, and if the attack takes place on in this carbon, the one I'm showing it to you in purple, then a 6-membered ring will be formed. So among the 5 and 6-membered ring, basically 5-membered ring is thermodynamically more stable, okay, and kinetically also it is more favorable. So whenever you have a competition between 5 and 6-membered ring, obviously a 5-membered ring is more favorable, right? So what is going to happen, this radical is going to attack over here, and basically we'll get a 5-membered ring with a methyl substituted. So you can see we have a 5-membered ring in this case we have a 6-membered ring. So that is why the correct answer over here will be option number 1. All right. Okay, so let's look at another question. This is again a very important question. This is Hofmann rearrangement, again a name reaction. Okay, Hofmann rearrangement, right? So what is going to happen in this case, in the case of Hofmann rearrangement? Basically, first of all, again we have been given NBS. Okay, so over here, see, NBS is basically a electrophilic electrophilic source of bromine, like we already discussed, because the conditions over here are polar conditions. So in polar conditions, like I said, there's no condition given where it can act as a radical. There's no radical initiator, or there's no photochemical light given to us, and plus it is given in polar conditions. So in polar conditions it will act as an electrophilic source. Generally for radical mechanisms you will be given non-polar solvents like CCl4 or something of that sort, basically non-polar solvents, right? So in this case, what is going to happen? This is going to act as a electrophilic bromine source. So first you need to identify that in the substrate, what is the most nucleophilic source, that because that will get attached to the, that is where the bromine is going to get attached, right? C double bond O, and we have a NH2 over here, right? And then we have CH2OH, right? So among all the substrates that are given to us in the question, see, this is going to be the most nucleophilic source, right? Even though this nitrogen is in conjugation, it's a amide bond, so it is in conjugation with the carbonyl. But if you compare the lone pair available on nitrogen and oxygen, then definitely the lone pairs on the nitrogen are more reactive. So this is going to act as electrophilic bromine source, right? So Br positive is there. So this lone pair on the nitrogen is going to attack this Br positive, right? And what is going to be formed? Basically, we'll have you can draw over here NHBr, right, like this. So basically, there's one more hydrogen, and silver acetate acts as a mild base, so it will abstract that hydrogen over here, and we'll get NHBr over here, right? Now what happens? The silver acetate again migrate, basically it's going to act as the base, and again the NH over here will get abstracted. One more NH of this will get abstracted, and basically now the Hofmann rearrangement condition is being satisfied. So what is going to happen? This N minus is going to migrate over here, okay? Or you can just show the formation of nitrine also. You can go by whatever mechanism you want. Either you can directly show that this bromine leaves and we get a nitrine, okay? A nitrine is generated over here, or you can show like this N minus migrates over here, and then it forms O minus. The O minus migrates back, and then this whole group migrates to the nitrogen. So this is nothing but Hofmann arrangement, and then bromine leaves, okay? I'll show it to you again so that there's no confusion. This, either you can show the formation of nitrine, like I said, this bond cleaves and nitrine is formed, or you can show this N minus migrates over here, this forms O minus migrates back, and then this carbon, this whole group basically migrates to this nitrogen and bromine leaves, right? So this is nothing but your Hofmann rearrangement. So let us draw the product over here. So we have N double bond C double bond O, and this whole group basically gets attached to the nitrine, right? We have OH over here, CH2. First there will be a carbon, so this is the carbon, then we have CH2OH and C7H15, right? And over here we'll have CH2OH, right? So now what is going to happen? This OH over here, okay, this OH over here is going to attack the most electrophilic carbon, which is this one, right? Intermolecular cyclization will take place. So how many member ring will get? 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, right? We'll get a 5-membered ring, right? So cyclization is going to take place, we'll get a 5-membered ring. So in the options we have, in all the conditions we have a 5-membered ring. So let us draw further what is going to happen. So we'll get a 5-membered ring basically, right? So this fifth atom is oxygen, like I have labeled, right? So fourth is basically so this is the fourth atom, right? On the fourth atom we have a C7H15 group attached, right? Then on the fourth atom, then we have the third atom, which is nothing but our nitrogen. So we'll have a nitrogen over here, right? This is the, no, third atom is basically a carbon, sorry. Third atom is the carbon over here. Then second atom is basically nitrogen, so we'll have a nitrogen over here. And then the first atom is basically carbon, so we'll have a double bond O over here, right? Basically this carbon, and to this carbon we have a double bond O attached, right? And then on the third carbon, so this is 1, 2, 3, on the third carbon we have a CH2OH group attached, right? So if you look at the options, in this option there's no nitrogen group, right? So this cannot be correct. In this option we have no nitrogen group. If you compare these two, this is a 6-membered ring, so obviously this cannot form as well. So that is why the only plausible answer over here is option number 1. Okay, you can see OCONH, right? OCONH, and that is what we have got, OCONH. And then to the carbon which is attached to NH, we have the CH2OH group, and to the next group we have C7H15, right? So this was the example of Hofmann rearrangement. Okay, so this one is again a name reaction. This is Horner Wadsworth-Emmons reaction. Basically it's a, you can say, a derivative of the Wittig reaction. So we have phosphonate over here, right? We have CH2, let me use another pen, we have CH2, and we have phosphonate. Okay, phosphonate is basically POET double bond O over here, phosphonate, and this is CO2 OET, right? And we are adding sodium hydride. So first your halide formation will take place. The sodium hydride is going to abstract a proton from this CH2 and is going to form CH minus. So basically your Wittig reaction, basically your halide will be formed, and you have a double bond over here. So the first case is very simple. You will basically get a alkene, right? We have a ketone. I'm not going to show you the Wittig mechanism. It's very simple. You can draw by yourself also. Basically, this is Horner-Wadsworth-Emmons reaction, but it is like very similar to the Wittig reaction, right? The only difference is we have phosphonate group over here, right? So we get CO2 ET, right? So we'll get basically the alkene formation is going to take place. So this is very easy. So the next step is what we are adding nitromethane in presence of sodium hydride. So when we add in presence of when we add sodium, like when we add sodium hydride again in the presence of nitromethane, so one of the hydrogens over here will get abstracted by the sodium hydride, right? So the base is going to abstract this hydrogen, and once that happens, what do we get? We get CH2 minus. Now this over here is a soft, you can say, nucleophile. It is going to give you 1,4 addition, okay, 1,4 conjugate addition, because over here either 1,2 addition can take place or 1,4 addition can take place, right? This double bond is in conjugation with the CO2 ET group. So over here the only difference was, the only thing you had to identify, that was the trick in the question, that 1,4 addition will take place. All right, so once the 1,4 addition takes place, what do you get? You get over here C double bond O OET, okay, and you have CH2 NO2, and when you are adding H2 in palladium carbon, basically hydrogenation, this NO2 will be reduced to NH2, so this will form NH2. So now what is going to happen? This nitrogen is going to attack this carbon over here. It will form O minus. That O minus will migrate back, and OET group will leave. So finally what you will get, you can label the carbon atoms if you want. This is carbon number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So we are going to get a 5-membered ring, spirocyclic ring. You can draw over here. We'll get a 5-membered ring. Okay, on, let's say this is carbon number 1. So to this is carbon number 1, we have a CO group attached, and then we have carbon number 2, carbon number 3 over here, carbon number 4, and carbon number 5 is NH. So you can see among the options, in the third and fourth option, one NH is drawn over here, whereas there will be a direct interaction of the carbonyl carbon and the nitrogen over here, right? So that is why the correct answer over here is option number 3, right? Okay, so there are a few more questions, but since it is already a 37-minute video, right? So I think I have 9 more questions left. I've covered, I think, 9 or 10 questions. Okay, I've covered 10 questions, I think. So I think 8 or 9 questions are left, so that I'll cover in the second part of the video. All right. So thank you so much for watching. I hope it was helpful to you, and let me know if you want me to explain it in a more detailed manner. So I'll make sure that in part 2 I explain it in a more you can say detailed manner. All right. So if you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up, and also if you haven't subscribed to the channel, I would request you to please subscribe to the channel as well. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video.
Hey guys, so I'm a verified educator on Unacademy, and along with that I'm also available on the Unacademy Plus platform, where I'm taking live classes along with other educators. So in case you're interested in attending the live classes, you can subscribe to the Unacademy Plus platform using my referral code, that is SETHI, and that will give you 10% discount. Alright, and in case you're not interested in attending the live classes, you can watch the free courses that are available on the Unacademy. For that, all you need to do is go to the Unacademy website or download the Unacademy Learning app and search my name over there, that is ACT. Once you do that, you will get the access to all the free courses that are available on the Unacademy platform. Alright, now let's begin with the video.